At 3 in the morning, I woke up and saw something that froze my blood. 8 people standing, motionless, all staring mysteriously at the same tree. None of them blinking, none of them visibly breathing. And when I tried to touch them, I felt something inside that tree staring back at me. I'm Shaman, and I've lived in this jungle for over 60 moons. And today I understood that there are things in the Amazon rainforest at night that we shouldn't awaken. 3 weeks ago, a group of scientists arrived in my village. There were 8 of them, biologists, geologists, photographer. They came to study nocturnal biodiversity. Their words, not mine. I warned them, like I always do. There are places in the jungle where you shouldn't camp. There are trees that shouldn't be touched. And there are hours of the night when it's better to be sleeping. The leader, Dr. Enrique, smiled. He said he respected local beliefs, but that science needed data. I asked to at least go with them as a guide. They accepted, but only because I knew the paths. We left at 6 p.m. The sun was beginning to disappear among the treetops. I carried my sacred staff and protective herbs. They carried flashlights and cameras. They didn't know that night their science would be worth nothing. At 7:30 p.m., we set up camp in a clearing. It wasn't a place I would have chosen, but Dr. Enrique insisted. Perfect for observation, he said. I felt the weight in the air. That silence that isn't silence. At 8:15 p.m., while they prepared equipment, I noticed something. The sounds of the jungle were changing. First, the howler monkey stopped. Then the crickets. Little by little, even the wind seemed to hesitate. I warned the group. Something's not right. The biologist, Dr. Claudia, laughed. It's just the fauna adapting to our presence, Kanawha. But I knew the jungle doesn't adapt. The jungle waits. At 9 p.m., one of the assistants, Miguel, pointed toward the edge of the clearing. What a strange tree that is. I looked, and my heart stopped. It was a ceiba, an ancient ceiba, with bark covered in marks. That weren't natural. They were symbols. Warning symbols. Don't set up camp here, I said, firmly. Dr. Enrique sighed. Kanawha, it's already dark. We're not taking everything down now. So I did what I could. Trace a circle of protection with sacred ash around the tents. I sang the ancient words. But deep down, I knew it might not be enough. At 10 p.m., we went into tents. They set up motion sensor cameras. To capture nocturnal life, they said. I didn't sleep. I just pretended. My grandfather taught me. When the jungle goes silent, you watch. At 11:47 p.m., I heard it. A whisper. It wasn't wind. It wasn't an animal. It was a voice coming from the direction of the tree. I opened the tent slightly. Outside, everything was still. Their LED lanterns cast pale light, and the tree seemed bigger, darker. At 12:32 a.m., the photographer Ricardo came out of his tent. I thought he was going to the bathroom, but he walked straight toward the tree. He wasn't stumbling. He wasn't running. Just walking, as if someone was pulling him with invisible strings. Ricardo! I whispered loudly. He didn't respond. I came out of the tent. I followed him. When I reached him, he was standing 3 meters from a tree, looking up. Ricardo, come back. I ordered. Nothing. I touched his shoulder. He was ice cold, and his eyes were open, but his pupils were pulsing, as if something inside them was moving. Then I heard behind me. I turned around. The other 7 were coming out of their tents, one by one, in absolute silence, all walking in the same direction, toward the tree. Stop! I shouted. No one responded. No one looked at me. They formed a semicircular line around the tree. Standing, looking up at the branches, I lit my ritual staff, a piece of wood that burned with a bluish flame, the only real light against whatever that was. I approached Dr. Claudia. Claudia, wake up. I shook her shoulders. Her eyes moved. Slowly, mechanically, they looked at me, but it wasn't her looking. Her mouth opened, and from inside came a voice that wasn't hers. Kana'a, Shaman, you shouldn't have come. I stepped back. My staff almost fell. Who are you? I asked in the ancient language, the language that entities understand. All 8 people turned their heads at the same time, looking at me, and they spoke, in unison, with the same voice. We are those who were here before you, before the villages, before names. We were the tree. I looked up toward the Saba's canopy, and I saw they weren't branches. They were arms, dozens of them, intertwined, twisted, as if the tree were made of fossilized bodies. And in the center of the trunk, an opening, like a mouth, or a wound. That pulsed. You disturb our sleep? The collective voice continued. Now, you'll pay the tribute. One of the arm branches began to descend, slowly, toward Ricardo. I knew what to do. My grandfather prepared me. I began the banishing chant, the words that closed doors, that forced the ancient to retreat. I threw sacred ash at the base of the tree. I drew the symbols of rejection. The tree screamed, not with a mouth, with the air, with the jungle itself. The 8 bodies fell to ground. They fainted instantly. The arm branch retracted. The marks on the trunk glowed red, and then went dark. Silence. Only my breathing, and the crackling of the blue flame. I dragged the 8 away from the tree. One by one, they were alive, breathing, but absent. I sat beside them, watching, waiting for dawn. At 4:30 a.m., the first one woke up. Miguel. He blinked, looked around, confused. What happened? He asked. Don't you remember? I asked back. I dreamed I was inside something ancient, something that didn't want to be forgotten. One by one, they woke up. They all said the same thing, that they felt they were inside the tree, seeing memories that weren't theirs. They saw when that tree was just a seed. They saw the first humans pass by it. They saw rituals, deaths, births, and they saw when someone buried bodies at its base, bodies of ancient shamans, that merged with the roots. The tree wasn't evil. It was a guardian, an archive, a living memory of the jungle. And when we camped there, when we disturbed its sleep, it wanted to show us, make us understand. But modern minds weren't made to receive memories from 1,000 years ago. At 6:07 a.m., the first rays of sun broke through the treetops. The golden light touched the clearing, and the tree looked normal, just an ancient ceiba. Dr. Enrique looked at me, pale, trembling. Kanoa, what was that? I didn't answer immediately. I just looked at the tree and whispered prayer of forgiveness. Then I said, it was a guardian, and you almost became part of it, permanently. We broke camp in silence. The motion sensor cameras, they didn't record anything, just static, as if something had erased the electronic memories, the same way it almost erased theirs. Before leaving, I carved a new symbol at the base of the tree, a word in the ancient language, forgiveness. And I swear, I felt the tree, except I led the group back to the village. They left 2 days later, quieter, more respectful. None of them returned to the jungle at night. But sometimes, when I pass near that clearing at dusk, I still hear whispers, not threatening, just ancient, as if the tree were telling its stories to wind. And I listened with respect. That tree is still there. I'm not going to say where. Some places should remain hidden. But if you're ever in the Amazon rainforest and you feel a tree watching you, don't camp near it. Don't touch it. And above all, don't laugh when a shaman tells you it's sacred. Because some trees aren't just trees. They're memories, guardians, and witnesses to everything that happened and everything that's still to come. I'm Kana, and as long as the jungle breathes, I'll keep telling its stories. And do you believe that tree was just a tree? Or that there are things in nature that modern science still doesn't understand? Leave in the comments. I believe if you believe, or IT was just a tree, if you think it was mass hallucination. And if you survived this far, subscribe. Hit that like button. Because Shaman Kanal has many more stories the world needs to hear. Until the next moon.